And welcome back, guys, to Sunday Smoke, part 2 of episode 11.
Oh, yes.
Something different. So, I just wanted to get straight back into it, continuing from earlier before. We were talking about...
And of course, sorry, who do we have with us?
Andy from Hookah Haus, man.
Welcome back, guys.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
So, I wanted to get into something we were talking about a little bit earlier, about you being a, motivational speaker. And I wanted to ask, do you guys ever look at just people in general, look at their, because you're quite orientated about people, helping people, you look at their life story, you look at someone on the road, see what are they up to in their life?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the big thing is, like, you see people walking, but like some people are so, it's almost like they've become zombies. Like we've got a zombie apocalypse happening already now, and it's people that are just so disengaged with their lives because there's so much chatter going on in their minds. So it's not so much what their story is, but it's like you just wonder the sort of words that they speak to themselves.
Yeah.
Like we always say, if there's an issue in your life that you're currently combating and you had a friend that was combating the same thing, what would you say to them? And then how could you use the same advice to implement in your own life?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because we often are very hard on ourselves, but if we were talking to a friend who was experiencing the same thing, the advice is different.
Yeah.
Have you noticed?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's when you talk on stage and you see people, you just see people like, I've seen people where they look half asleep and then they'll come up to you afterwards and I'm looking at this guy, looks half asleep. I'm like, okay, it's a bit fucking disempowering for myself right now to see this guy looking like he's falling asleep. I'm like, not that boring. But then afterwards he'll come back and he'll shake your hand at the end of it and he's like, that was awesome. I got so much out of it. And I'm like, so everyone's just got their own resting faces.
Yeah.
It's just about...
Like I'll look at people like sometimes on the street, not to sound creepy or nothing, but and just what are they going to? Where do they work?
Yeah, I know. Where are they coming from?
Yeah.
Like, or when you're driving, like late at night, and you're like, it's 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Like, where's this person going?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
What are they up to? But there's multiple people, and you're just like, what's their story? Where do they come from? What was their upbringing? Are they going through adversity? Are they having a happy time? Are they having a bad time?
Well, maybe I'm gonna signal them over. Say, hey, listen, how can I help? Are you what are you doing at this time of night? Are you okay?
Yeah.
Do you need the assistance from Jackson,
Do
the
you need
J-Dog?
assistance?
I think it's time we talk about what grinds my gears, Jackson. This is going to be a new favourite, I reckon, in the future, because there's just so much stuff.
So many things.
So much
grind
stuff.
my gears, man.
So much stuff in this world that just frustrates the shit out of me, man. What grinds your gears, Jackson?
Oh, bro. You know what? What I tell you? I used to work at an ice cream parlour, right?
Okay.
I used to work at an ice cream parlour, and there was nothing worse than people coming in wanting to sample every ice cream before they got it. So I used to say, listen, man, you get one sample and one sample. I was sick of it.
You get one lick.
I did some really, really interesting stuff when I worked there. Like what I used to do is I used to scrunch up a paper ball and put a cup at the back of the ice cream shop and say, here, you take this. This is like I'd get people engaged. I'd try to get people engaged. So I'd see a group of people walking past. You throw this paper ball into that cup in the corner of the room, you all get free ice cream.
You have to earn.
Wow.
Happened one time, actually.
Nice.
I gave them all free ice cream.
That guy was having the best day of his life.
If the boss saw that, I would have been in big trouble with that.
But yeah, look, I know what you're saying. You're eating away at all the produce.
It's not even that. It's a time waster.
I know. Make your decision.
And they're gonna be like, oh no, I don't like any of these flavors, and just walk off.
Yeah, they go to the gelato stand next door.
Too much variation sometimes confuses people. If I go to someone, they've got a menu of 50 items, I'm like, look, I need to see your Instagram page. I need to see the photo of the food or what it looks like, because I can't make up my mind on 50 items.
What grinds your gears, Andy? Tell me.
What grinds my gears? So I get a lot of people come in either to the shop or stuff that I read on the internet, and it's when people make, like, they'll go and sit with their friends and their friends start talking and they're like, yeah, this is the best.
Yeah.
So then they have this like preconception that this is the best, and they come into the showroom or they're online and they're like, oh, I heard this is the best or this is the best. But you can't make a statement saying that something is the best if you don't compare it to something else. You can't just say Coke is the best.
Yeah.
Compared to what? Compared to Sprite? Yeah, of course. They're one's cola and one's lemonade. I get that. There's
have you
context.
tried Pepsi?
Oh, no, of course. But what grinds my gears is people just always coming in saying, yeah, this is the best. They've got nothing other context or substance behind what they say, what their statements are.
They're just
and you just look
shit.
at them and you're just like, yeah, but compared to what? How can you say that something is the best if there's nothing you can compare it to?
It's like a blanket statement.
For me, when people come in and say that, I'm just like, oh, because you got to try to break away and then get them into comparing, and then because then that's what validates what they say. But
yeah,
they just think that they've heard the word of God about this being the best, and they're like, yeah,
you gotta ask, what makes you think that that's the best?
Yeah, I heard that it's the best. Like, who did you hear it from? Did you hear it from a little bird in the forest? Like, it's just anyway.
What about you?
You know what grinds my gears, and this is actually future related.
Yeah,
and it actually has to do with Ray.
Oh.
I hate, and what grinds my gears is when you're sitting down, whether it's at a lounge, whether it's here, wherever you're going, and people deep throat the hose. And Ray is the worst at that.
And he's got slobber all over it.
I've never seen that, thank God.
You don't want to see it. It's not pretty, bro. It's not pretty.
I've seen that before.
We've all seen that.
All the way down the throat.
Oh man, it comes out of his asshole. That's how far down it goes. So you have to decontaminate your hose every time you use it.
It's like he's licking the tip.
Man, that's too deep, bro.
I don't know why he does it. Maybe you can explain it to us, because we still don't understand it. Maybe he does it on purpose. I don't know.
Maybe.
But that's what grinds my gears.
Ray, you're provocateur.
Ray, you really grind my gears, bro. So look, there's a concept that goes around a lot of the time when you finish school and you get into the workforce, and it's a concept of, oh man, I wish I was back in school, or like an older brother or something saying like, stay in school. School's the best.
Yeah.
Do you think that, and I think this applies to you a lot and how you started your business. Do you think that concept is a dead concept this day and age?
Like what? Stay in school?
Like as in school was the best. I wish I could go back to school.
Yeah. I definitely stay away from the language of just wishing for a different scenario, because at the end of it, nothing happens. Yeah. Nothing changes. Nothing will. It doesn't impact anything in the now. So I definitely steer away from the language of that. I feel that experiences are better than like a textbook. Like I've learned more about business than I've talked to people who have MBAs, like Master of Business Administration, like heavy into the degrees and stuff like that. I have conversations with them, and by the end of it, they're like, you've taught me more than what I've learned in 4 years just in a conversation with you. So I think definitely experiences would trump just staying in school, because school was originally designed to breed you into a worker, to work in a factory, to work for someone, to work for a company, to do what you're told. Yeah, there's no real,
because good job.
100%, like go get a good job, go do a 9 to 5. There's nothing wrong with that. If you have that and you love that, man, my hat's off to you. Like I really respect that. But if it's not for you, then just go out and experience a whole bunch of different things, because there will be more lessons and learnings in that than in a textbook or what someone's telling you to read chapters 4 to 28. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's more value in experiences than there are in a textbook.
Yeah.
I found that a lot in my life as well. You leave school, you got an idea of what you want to study and learn your degree or whatever it is your goal is.
Yeah.
But I've probably worked, 10 jobs at this point. I'm not even 21 yet. I've worked 10 different jobs, and each of them has taught me a lesson. Maybe a small lesson, maybe a big lesson, but each of them has made me learn something about myself and about how to conduct myself at work.
Touching on that, Jackson, though, if you look at the 10 different jobs you've done, you've now found 10 different things that you definitely don't want to do.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? So now it's narrowing the options that are available for you. And if anything, it's not something that someone can say, hey, bro, just go do psychology or something like that. You know what I mean? It's not just a one word fits all. Yeah. So even in that, like you're 21, think about all the different experiences you have. That's a lot over other people who aren't. Yeah. They just pick that life, that custom default setting.
Exactly.
Of it's like, 9 to 5, married, car, house, pay it off, be happy, you die. You know what I mean? So it's actually awesome that you're doing stuff like that.
And it's not just in jobs as well. It's about, once you leave school, you leave that system, where you got that routine. You break out of the routine. Yeah. And it's social life. What do you learn socially? What do you learn so many things about yourself with the relationships you have with all the different people, how that changes over time as well. You learn things about how relationships and connections with people change over time as people change. There's nothing that beats experience.
Yeah,
100%.
Well, I think with a lot of people's experience coming out of school, like obviously it's been like 8 years since I've been at school. For you, you've only just finished. And I think there's a lot of pressure on kids nowadays to, all right, what are you going to do with your life straight away? And the way I see it is it's a pretty dangerous concept, because it's like you can't know what you want to do in life a lot of the time, not for everyone, but you can't know what you want to do in life until you know what you don't want to do. That's touching on what Andy said 100%, before.
Yeah.
You know?
And that feeds into that idea that we had a little bit earlier about social. We were talking about before the show about social media and how much of a role that plays in trying to shape people's minds and how much better people think their lives should be as opposed to how they're going to make them.
Yeah.
I think social media is definitely making a lot of people depressed nowadays. If I look at like even myself in my early 20s and then just looking at someone taking a photo, even on a plane, you create this story that they're having this great life and this fun life, but you can't judge someone unless you walked a mile in their shoes. You can't, like, comparison is the killer of joy. It's the killer of everything. It's the killer of momentum.
And it's life. I like to call it lifestyle catfishing.
Lifestyle catfishing.
You know,
I love that, bro.
Because
write that down.
Write that down.
I mean, you see a photo of a girl. She looks good on Instagram. Then you see her walk past in the shopping center in real life. You're like, damn, that's disappointing. Yeah. You know. And it's the same thing with life, people's lifestyles. You know, you see like young rappers and whatever. Like, how many of them got financial troubles? How many of them, are still living at home? You don't know. You only see what you see on Instagram. How many times you try and show that you're living a life online? Yeah, it's not really the case. You know, everyone's got their struggles, and I think a lot of people forget to realize.
Touching on that as well is you can't judge your chapter 2 to someone's chapter 20. So you're looking at someone successful and you're like, they have all these things and they've done, but you don't know all the hardships and trials and tribulations they had to face to get there. Yeah. And then to compare yourself to them is not doing you any favors whatsoever, because that's what paralyzes people. Comparison paralyzes people and stunts their growth.
And that goes back to experience. That chapter 2 to chapter 20 idea is all about experience as well.
Learning,
growing. Maybe they've learned and experienced things at a faster rate than you have. That's a possibility, but maybe they haven't. Yeah, you know. And the thing is that's why you got to go out. You got to experience.
Get out of the comfort zone.
Yeah, get out of the through the chapters of your life. And for some people that takes longer. For some people that takes shorter. But it doesn't mean it's not happening. Yeah, it's just happening at your rate.
Comfort is the biggest killer of everything. Yeah, if you're comfortable in life and you're comfortable, that breeds complacency. You're not going to be willing to go out and try new things, try a new podcast, put yourself out there, meet new people. So comfort is, in my eyes, like one of the biggest killers in this world. Yeah.
You want to get yourself out of your comfort zone. And that's what Andy pushes me all the time. You know, he says, don't worry about, your face being on camera. That's good. It's a good thing. Get out of your comfort zone. Do something.
How much more have you grown since the podcast has been out? Like, how's your confidence and stuff like that?
Too much. Now, I've said this to Jackson. It's like the first, 4 or 5 episodes. There's always the heart's pounding. Yeah. You're worried. You're sweating literally.
Sweaty hands. Yeah.
Now it's like I'm sort of nervous leading up to it, but then once you press record, it's like I'm zen.
You've clicked in.
I'm zen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I wouldn't have thought that was possible. 11 episodes ago. Yeah. But it is, because I got myself out of my comfort zone.
Now, where else can you apply that in your life?
That's right. Yeah.
And you know what, going back to even the podcast, this is another experience for both of us, and like it's taught me a lot as well. Time management. There's so many different things you can learn. You just have to look at the lessons. You have to look at what you were before and what you are after or during. And how to apply that to all the other parts of your life. Every part of your life has a lesson in it. You just have to figure out what that lesson is.
100%.
So Jackson, you know what time it is?
What time is it?
It's hookah time.
It's hookah time all the time, man.
We're here at Hookah Haus. There has to be a good segment specifically for the shisha. And Andy, when I came here last time, you told me something that blew my mind.
Okay.
A lot of people that start with their hookah, they go around putting ice in their base to cool down the smoke. Yeah. You said something that revolutionized the way that I thought about that. Okay. Go for it.
Okay. So I was on a consult for the company that I work for was looking at investing in this company, and they were talking. They had all the founders there. We're going through the call, and they're all shisha heads. So they were excited to talk about shisha, but I'm like, let's just get through the business first, and then I promise you we'll go straight into shisha. So we finished the call, and like I'm on my laptop, and in the background it says Hookah Haus, so they're all excited. Throughout the call, they were telling me about the scientific use of their product. Yeah. And they're like, look, we have our company scientist here. Yeah. And I laughed at first because I thought it was funny because I'm like, fuck, a company scientist. I've never heard of that or seen of that. So this guy is like, he's been a scientist for 11 years, understands the mechanics of everything, temperature, all these sorts of things. And he's very well versed in shisha, so he understands things. And I was talking to him about, really cold water here or ice down here, hot here. Would that impact the smoke, or how would it impact the smoke?
Yeah.
And then he told me, he goes, what do you think freezes faster, cold water or hot water? And in my head, I'm like, this is a trick question. He's gonna make a fool of me if I say one thing. And I said, oh, look, I'm gonna say it's hot water only because it's the obvious not one. And he goes, yeah, that's correct. And he goes, because of the rapid transformation of temperature, it actually cools down faster. It actually ices faster. When it's cold water, because it's already cold, I'm not a scientist, I'm not exactly versed in this, but because it's cold, it actually slows down its progress to then become ice.
Yeah.
So if something is really icy down here and really hot in here, and then it heats up, but it's cold here, and then it comes through here, it'll actually shorten your session quicker because of the rapid temperature changes. So putting ice in here is actually silly.
Yeah.
And it's better for you to put an ice flavor in the shisha to make it icy naturally.
So does that mean, hypothetically, if you filled it with warm water, it would elongate your session?
That's what I thought. That's what I was thinking.
No. I think the water would have to be neutral. Like, it's not cold. It's not that. It just comes straight from the tap. It's actually a clever question when I think about it. I didn't actually ask that at the time, but it was just something like, for me, especially coming into the shisha world, there's so many conceptions that are built on people and their methodologies around what they do for shisha.
Yeah.
And then when you start to talk about it, like I remember one customer came in and we were talking about flavor storage, and I'm like, what do you do with your flavor? Do you juice the leaf? And she goes, yeah, I'll put it on a paper towel and then put another paper towel on top and squeeze it all down. And I'm like, well, the ingredients of what shisha is, the molasses, the juice is what carries all the flavor. The leaf itself is just tobacco. So you extracting all the juice out of it, what are you doing? You're taking out all the flavor. Now, if the flavor is dry and you're applying heat to it, have you ever put wet wood in a fire, in a bonfire? Have you ever put wet wood, wet timber, moist timber? Never. It takes forever to burn. Yeah. So if your leaf is dry and you've got hot coals on them, you're going to burn your session quicker. So taking the leaves out, taking the juice out of it doesn't slow it down. It actually speeds it up. So it's better that it is moist as opposed to it being dry, based on that alone. Anyway, so this lady's like, I keep my flavor in the fridge. And I'm like, don't put your flavor in the fridge. Make sure it's in a room temperature. And she goes, why? My uncles, they used to say, put it in the fridge and all this stuff.
It's always
and
the
I'm
uncles.
Like,
it's like you're trying to it's like, they're treating it like chicken. They want to put it in the fridge so it lasts a few days so you can cook it later.
The conception is that it's fresh, but it's not fresh.
Yeah.
When you buy shisha flavor, it doesn't come out of a cool room. Yeah. It's in a room temperature. So that's where your flavor should be stored. And then she goes, what our process is we take the flavor out of the fridge for an hour beforehand, and then we make the head. And I'm like, can you not see what you're saying to yourself? Yeah. Just put it in room temperature. You don't need to cool it down by that logic. But yeah, it was just something like I'm always like talking to other people who are really, really into their shisha to work out, why people do certain things. But there's a science to the shisha. Yeah. Like we've been here for like an hour and a half now. Yeah. The shishas are still going. They're still ripping. How many times have you had a session at a lounge and it went for 45 and it died and you're having coal and mint?
Yeah, pretty much.
You know what
Every
I mean?
time.
So you don't need ice in the base. You just get an icy flavor. It's really easy.
And that goes back to knowledge. Yeah. And that goes and that's another thing that works really well for your business. People are coming in, they're asking questions, and you're giving them knowledge. 100%.
And that came from me trialing a lot, like learning a lot, but also like there's all these people on the internet, so asking them questions or reading forums. And it's just like, for me, I'm an extensive researcher. If I'm going to do something, I'm going to do my homework on it. So I want to make sure. But what I don't like is you go to some of these shops and they don't know what
you couldn't do your homework at university, but you can do your homework on this.
It's a different type of homework. It's a different homework. Yeah.
Something else I want to touch on. Let's talk about two topics for Hookah Time. There's a big overcomplication of people when they make their shisha, because if you're active on like the forums and like the Instagram pages, the Facebook pages, there's people that really nail down their shisha to like a gram. Like you have to pack it this way, like a heavy normal pack, a medium, dense, like shit like that. Gotcha. There's so many ways, it's so specific. Okay. That it just overcomplicates everything. What's your opinion on for example, like a heavy semi-dense pack or a light normal pack, all that
I wouldn't
kind
get
of stuff.
too into like the heavy dance, light dance. I feel like, if it's blonde, which is majority of the market, because most of the market are casual smokers,
Yeah.
it's a fluff pack.
Yeah.
So your bowl is completely fluffed.
Yeah.
I took the time to
sprinkling.
fluff each of the leaf, fell into the bowl. I evened it all out, make
Yeah.
sure it was nice and even, but it's fluffy as.
Yeah.
Okay. When you go into dark leaf, then you have different pack methodologies, only because the leaf is different, the type of tobacco is different.
Yeah.
And that's when you need to then be like, if you're going for Tangiers, it's dense. You're pushing down on the flavor.
Yeah.
When something is light dense, it's a light pack. But to go into heavy, like all those words that you use, it's just you're overcomplicating what shisha is. You know what I mean? Like if we're here and the shisha lasts for 2 hours, in my eyes, that's gold.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because if you're comparing it to what you had before at lounges and you got 45 minutes and then the next hour is coal and mint, yeah, absolutely.
Coal mint.
Absolutely. There's a
And
massive difference.
that's a very common flavour at the lounges.
Very common in Sydney. Yeah, absolutely.
And people just put up with it, especially people that are unknowledgeable.
Yeah.
They'll just put up with it. Oh yeah, this is good.
Yeah,
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful flavour.
It's a beautiful coal flavour.
Yes.
Bullshit.
No. Shisha is
You
the
want to
flavor.
enjoy.
It's the flavor, man. Yeah, like that's what people like. That's the first premise of you choosing a shisha or a flavor itself. It's what is that flavor?
Yeah, that's it. For anyone watching, just don't overcomplicate things.
If it's blonde and you're like the casual part of the market in shisha, which is probably like 80%, it's fluff.
Yeah.
Just fluff it, and that means you don't push down on the flavor. That way the air can circulate properly. It'll cook evenly at the bottom as it does on the top, and you won't have that frustration when you take the foil off and it's black on top and red at the bottom, or brown at the bottom. Like that's the biggest waste.
That was always that's how we all started.
They used to like frustrate me. I'm like, well, maybe I can take some of the leaves from the bottom and reuse them, but they're gone.
Yeah. Right, well said. All right, Jackson and Andy, I'm going to trial a new segment. It's called Who's in the Right? Because I was at Coogee Pavilion last week with my mates, and we're sitting down. I'll give you the scenario.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting down, and I'm observing all this happen. There's a group of 2 at a table. There's enough people for 6, but it's a group of 2. It was busy. They get up. They go to the bathroom. As they go to the bathroom, another couple rock up, and then they take their seat on the opposite side of their table. Now, nothing was left. No phones, no wallets, nothing. Okay, and then the other 2 people, they came back. And then they basically, they got into a little bit of an argument, like, oh, what are you doing here? I'm like, oh, the table was free, blah, blah, blah. Now, what ended up happening is the 2 people that had taken the table after they went to the bathroom, right? They're like, okay, fine. We'll just go sit somewhere else. We'll sit at the bar. All right. Who do you think is in the right in this situation?
All right. This could be an unpopular opinion, but first of all, you both shouldn't get up to go to the bathroom at the same time.
That's what I said. Exactly.
Without leaving anything on the table.
Yes.
This happens to me at the gym.
Yeah.
This exact situation happens to me at the gym.
Yeah.
I'll be on bench press or whatever I'm doing. I'll leave my phone there or I'll leave something there.
Yeah.
To let people know it's occupied.
It's common courtesy.
It's common courtesy. You can't just get up, leave the table. There's no menus. There's no cups on the table.
There's no bags. There's no nothing.
No nothing. And you're both going to get up and go at the same time. You can't do that.
You should be alternating. One person should go to the bathroom, come back, and then
I agree.
I absolutely think that the other couple that they should have been able to sit down. If not sit down by themselves at that table, it was a big enough table. The other 2 should have said, you know what, have a seat, enjoy yourselves, and that's it. Sit together.
Yeah,
they could have became friends after that. Who knows?
See, that's where it's like, devil's in the details.
Yeah.
Kind of like if there was a phone left on the table or there was something that indicated that it was occupied, then there shouldn't have been an argument.
It would have been a no-fly zone. No one would have even thought twice about it.
Nah, exactly. Yeah.
But these 2 girls that have gone to the bathroom, obviously they go together. I get that. Like
it was actually 2 guys. It was 2 guys.
Yeah, it was 2 guys. Yeah.
Oh, that's even worse. 2 guys getting up to go to the bathroom at the same time.
That's I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
I thought that was just a female thing.
Yeah, I've never seen that before.
Yeah. So if those 2 if that couple was listening, the ones that sat down after, we think you're in the right.
And that's the thing. That's the other thing. You can't just go sit down on a table, not order anything, then get up and go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
You have to order something, or you have to occupy the table.
Put a jumper, put a jacket
properly.
Put a jumper or a jacket.
Sunglasses.
Before you can claim it as yours.
100%.
Yeah.
Because what if you just went through the door and went straight to the bathroom? You've never occupied that table. Those people would have sat down in the same spot.
Even
anyway.
if we put ourselves in the position of seeing an empty table with nothing on it, you're gonna jump on it straight away.
Yeah.
100%.
There's not gonna be an ounce of doubt in my mind that anyone sits here and I'm like, yeah, it's a free table. And if they came back saying, oh, this is our table, how do we know you haven't gone and said that to everyone else and just hoping that we'll just leave based on what you've said?
That's 100%. And it's Coogee Pavilion. It's a busy place. So I'm with you, Andy.
And I love the shop and I love everything, your brand and everything. I just want to know, because you said the original idea for your shop here was actually going to be more like a lounge, you know. I want to know, so you got this shop, it's beautiful and it's going really well for you. How do you plan to expand in the future? What's kind of the future plans of the Hookah Haus brand?
Yeah, for sure. We've always talked about opening up a second store. Not sure on the details as to where that'll be. It would have to be in an area where the supply is not very high and the demand is quite there. So there's a few areas that we're circling around on. The lounge idea, we still play around with it. So that could always be, in the future plans for it, because it's like something that I love. Tedious. Like this is not work. When it's like, when I'm here, when I come to work here every day, in the morning is when I do most of the coaching and consulting and work and sort of stuff. But then when the hours are open for Hookah Haus, it doesn't feel like I'm working. So it comes purely out of passion and I absolutely love it. But yeah, the future plans could either be a second shop or a lounge. It's just about, navigating, because there's a lot of supply chain issues at the moment. Some of my clients are facing as well. Like if you look at the building industry, they actually ran out of timber. So you couldn't even build a house, like the frames for the walls, because there was no timber in Australia. Like think about that. So supply chain issues are definitely what the world is facing at the moment. So we just got to wait and see what that looks like moving forward before we go, stock is starting to come back in again. We could open up a second location, or maybe we go into the lounge concept. Like there's a lot of different roads in terms of where we may go.
So we're located here in Wetherill Park, and what kind of area are you looking at next? For the people that might not live around out here.
Yeah.
What's kind of the area you're looking at?
I really don't want to say the suburb just for obvious reasons. Only because I don't want to say something and then we don't commit to it. It makes us look a little bit funny. But we're looking at like Inner West.
Yeah.
Inner West. Yeah. Just to give those people an opportunity to try the premium sort of side of things. And the other areas might be like the hills areas. Yeah, the hills areas. There's nothing out there. It's still uncapitalized, and the big thing is like the supply chain. So you're just working with and pivoting and working with, the world crisis that's happening. Yeah. And until something starts to ease up, then we can start to make a executive decision.
I know the lounge idea is quite a tedious task. There's a lot of regulations you got to follow and, battling with the council and things like that. So are you leaning more towards another shop rather than a lounge, or what's kind of your mindset on that?
That's a good question. So the big thing is like we mentioned with the crisis of supply, because if supply eases up, then a shop would make more sense. Lounge it's a bit more hands-on. Lounge is going to be a different sort of scale. I'm going to need a team. I'm going to need a few people. I'm going to have to, build a great team around the brand and what I want it to be, and because my standards are quite high for what I expect.
That's the other thing, finding people that are willing to work to your brand, your standard.
That's easy because it comes down to coaching, and coaching is like, that's the second half of who I am. So I wouldn't classify that too much as an issue. But the big thing is like, it's just because of like no one saw COVID happening. A lot of businesses had to shut. A lot of things closed down. Like some shops went belly up. Construction companies went bust. Like there's a lot of unknowns right now. And I think to make that decision right now may not be the best decision, just until we can start to sort of project what's going to happen, like anticipate things to happen. Like we don't know what's happening. Like half the shisha market are Russian shishas. Do you know what I mean? Despite whatever's happening with those two countries, like the shisha brands that come out of Russia are phenomenal. Do you know what I mean? Like we had pallets ready to leave Russia like 2 days before the war broke out, and they just canned everything. Do you know what I mean? So once supply chains start to ease up, or we start to see what that looks like in the future, then I can say, okay, maybe when we do a part 3 of this episode, I can actually disclose some of that information with what that looks like. But right now it's getting in the stock, continuously delivering content. Content is king. Educating the customers as much as possible. And then whatever opens up for us, like we have what the next steps are. It's just when the world is in crisis,
arises.
It's when you're in business and it's an emotional decision, the emotional decision always backfires, and it's because you haven't considered a lot of different things. But when you're out of power with things that are happening around the world to make a decision in that you don't know what's coming next.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that is what, like, a lot of people, when they jump into business, sometimes they don't think about things like that, and that leads them to really shoot themselves in the foot.
So Andy, we want to get some advice from you, because you've started your own podcast, The Mental Gym, you know, and I binged it, and it was incredible. It was incredible to listen to. It was nice. It was clear. It was concise. What I want to ask is, what advice, given that you have experience with podcasts and you've been on podcasts, what advice can you give us moving forward with this particular show?
Yeah.
How can we aim to be? What can we do to be the best that we can be?
Yeah, for sure. So I see there's a lot of people starting podcasts like right now, and they've all got their own sort of topics and niches with what they do. The big thing that you guys can start to do is build a community around the sort of topics that you guys are talking about, and really engaging with people. If you guys can start to answer questions or get people to talk about, you know, who's right, that sort of segment, that segment that you did before, and they say, look, well, I have a friend who's doing this right now. What do you think I should do?
Yes.
So there's a lot of podcasts who will go on Reddit and they'll just read questions and then give advice to those people based on, you know, what those people are talking about. And I think that'll give you guys that unlimited cap for content, which is good. But it'll also give you a sense to engage with people as they start to draw a likingness to your brand and who you are and who Jackson is. So engagement is going to be one of the things that can help you continuously deliver content to the standard that you're looking for. And because I know what happens with a podcast, you start to hit a bit of a stalemate because you're like, oh, wow, I've talked about everything that I was anticipating to talk about. And now we've got to keep going because it's episode 16 or whatever that looks like. And it's like, well, what do you do from here? I think guest appearance are good if you diversify different aspects of different people. Like you've got, you know, people who maybe they're not business owners, maybe they're just everyday people and they just like to have a chat or just talk the usual sort of stuff. So definitely diversify with people on your podcast. And then what you could also do is off the back of that podcast is then you could dissect it more into the next episode. So this is what I liked about when I was talking with Ray, say, for example. You know, Ray said this and I thought that was really cool, but this is what I would do in his situation. Do you know what I mean? Because your podcast, I know it's a show about nothing per se, but some of the stuff that you guys talk about when you dissect them, you don't know how it changes and influences someone. Do you know what I mean? Like as your brands grow and people develop a liking towards you guys now have influence. Do you know what I mean? When you say something, people are like, no, but Sam said this and this is how it... No, because the way Sam's take on it, like conversations can change the world, man. Do you know what I mean?
That's true. And this isn't just advice for us and for Sunday Smoke in particular. This is advice is applicable to pretty much everyone.
100%.
You know, understand that your conversation, your point of view is influential in its own way. It doesn't have to have a particular niche, not necessarily all the time. But when you're just talking about everyday topics, you might have a viewpoint that someone has never thought about or understood. Maybe you explain something in a different way that other people don't understand. And I was reading this book by Jordan Peterson, and he says, you know, when you listen to someone as if they know something that you don't. You know, and that's
how you learn.
That's how you learn.
That's how you
apply. And that's applicable to everyone and this
everything
podcast in particular as well.
100%. The other thing that I would say about the podcast is don't fall too in love with the numbers and the subscribers. Only because that tends to backfire. If you release an episode and you only get 1 or 2 views, like it doesn't matter. Like it's a game of consistency. So don't lose the momentum because you're not getting a lot of views on your stuff. Like everyone had to start somewhere.
That's right.
You see people on YouTube, they've got 900,000 subscribers and they're making all this money. But if you scroll all the way down, they've had videos for the last 6 years, 7 years. You know what I mean? They've just been so consistent to the point that their voice becomes like... has so much power in their voice. Do you know what I mean? So like, don't fall in love. Like, don't chase clout. Don't do things for clout. Like, you know, if you're genuine, authentic, and most of all, just who you guys are, like people will start to resonate with you. You'll become more relatable. And I think that's what's rare. That's the rare part of what people are missing right now. It's authenticity.
So to keep it real.
Those
and you know what? I've been dying to say this, and that's actually the most sort of frustrating part about doing this podcast. It's trying to explain to, like Ellie or my dad. They're like, okay, Ellie, for example, where are the views going? How come your views aren't going up? But they don't understand is that this is a very slow grind. We're tapping into a field where we have, obviously I've got Shishagram Australia.
Yeah.
Okay. But with that said, we don't have a YouTube channel. We don't have our own show. We don't do this. We don't do that.
Not yet.
Yeah, exactly. We're coming pretty much from almost nothing. We're the podcast about nothing that's coming from the ground up completely.
Yeah.
So we don't have an audience apart from our friends at the moment.
Yeah. Touching on that as well. No one in your family has ever embarked what you guys are embarking on right now.
Yeah.
So no, like they can give you criticism and all that sort of stuff. But if they haven't, like what I found with people giving advice is they've given you advice on things they've never done. Yeah. So the context of them giving you the advice is almost nullified. It doesn't, like, it's not worthy of anything because they haven't done it. But because you guys are walking a path that literally, no one else has ever walked before.
Yeah.
That in itself is courageous, man. That in itself is challenging. Yes, it is a slow grind, but you don't know when this might be the one bit of information that just goes viral and you guys... You know what I mean? Like it grows and grows, but you're not doing it for the views. You're not doing it for that. Like it's just that one person. Like I listen to the Sunday Smoke literally on Sundays when I'm driving.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Or if I'm driving to work, I'll listen to the Sunday Smoke just for easy going conversation. And you'll find me just laughing in there. And I feel like that is like, how does that feel when you hear that?
Yeah. That's the best.
Well, that's
the thing. It's also, it's a slow grind to gain, a base, but it's also a slow grind. You were talking about people you look at 6 years before they were, introducing videos on YouTube or whatever it might be. It's a slow grind to build your brand, to find out what your brand is.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of we're doing here is we're just diving in head first and we'll figure it out as we go and build
that's all
brand.
you can do. That's all you can do.
And that's the thing. I think that a lot of people, when you look up like YouTube videos on how to start a podcast, like I went balls deep in the research on how to start a podcast. And it became so complicated because they say different things like find your niche, plan 10, 20 episodes ahead. But you really can't do that because, especially for a podcast like us, where a podcast about nothing and we just have general conversation, we don't have a niche yet. And then going into...
it'll come.
Hey?
It'll come.
Oh, the niche will come. But then also, for example, planning 10 episodes ahead. We can't plan 10 episodes ahead because, especially starting off now, because we don't know what works and what doesn't work.
There's a book called Rework, and it's all about reimagining the way pathways to business are supposed to be. Like this is the 10 steps that you take to become a millionaire or whatever that looks like. But in the book, I really conceptualize that there's no real pathway to do anything. Like you don't need to have 10 episodes, 20 episodes. The biggest thing that you can take out of this is you just take action, take imperfect action. That's all it is. Imperfect action. And that's what builds empires. It's not planning and strategy and like going I forgot the word. I've gone blank.
No, that's all right. But I get what you're saying.
Yeah, like don't over plan. You don't need to over plan where you are or where you need to be. You just need to do today.
That's right. And then when you over plan, then you become, because over planning leads to disappointment when things don't go to plan.
Yeah, 100%.
Be consistent, show up.
Yeah, turn up. You gotta wake up.
That's it. Every day starts with waking up.
This is Jackson and me and my brother were talking and we were like to Jackson, like, so what are you doing tomorrow, bro? He's like, I'm just gonna wake up. It's like, obviously, bro, everyone's gonna wake up, man.
But that's how you start the day, and that's wake up, show up,
have your avocado,
and that's the first step.
Yeah.
Going on from that, coming close to the end of the episode, what advice do you have for you come from an entrepreneurial background? What advice do you have to just people in general, looking for what they like? Maybe they want to start a business of their own. What kind of advice do you have for an entrepreneur that wants to start a business, that wants to get involved?
Okay. That's a good question. Like you have like your inspiration, you have your motivation, you read your books, you do all these sorts of things. They're all great, but they don't mean anything unless you do. And it also stems back down to that concept we spoke about, people living in the past or people speaking of the future.
Yeah.
The people are stuck in the past because that's just the timeline in which they speak. If you're stuck in the past, nothing's going to change today and nothing in the future is going to change. So if you're stuck in the past, whatever's happened for the last 5 years, there's a good chance it's going to happen for another 5. So really think about that when you're talking about perspective. The next thing was like I said, there's a lot of people online that I watch their content and just, I've been listening to real estate guys talk on a podcast. I'm not in real estate, but just some of the things they talk about with experience is something that I'm drawing from. So when you leave school, the concept is that you stop learning, but you never stop learning. Yeah. Like it's important that you continuously find the education that suits you. So for myself, when I left school, I wasn't very confident. I was very unsure of myself. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew that I was good at some things, so I further developed those skills. I knew that I wasn't really great at conversing or communicating because that's what led to a lot of frustrations in my early days of business. So I studied hard at communication. What makes someone an effective communicator? Talking is a big part of who we are and every day. So find the things that you need to work on, that you want to work on, and go towards those. If that's a course, if it's a book, if it's reaching out, even to a mentor. I can't tell you the amount of mentors that I've had in my life that I still have today, that I've been with for years. And every time we talk to them, they'll give me these little nuggets of information that just help change your perspective. Yeah. If something can change your perspective, it can definitely change your life. Yeah. So if there's anything, in that's going to help you become a better person, then run towards that. There was another quote from a guy that I read in his book. He said that it's from Confucius. He says, they say we have 2 lives. And the second one begins when you realize you only have one. So a lot of people are waiting for like something to happen, for someone on a white horse to come and rescue them. Yeah. But if you don't have a plan for yourself, no one's going to have a plan for you. So you really need to work out, what you need to improve on that. If you improve yourself, more opportunities will come, because if you become a better communicator, it'll be easy for you to talk about opportunities. Yeah. You know what I mean? If you become better at sales, it'll be easier for you to sell yourself if you're talking about a new opportunity. I did a lot of sales training and persuasion because I knew in myself that it would be a handy tool. And that could be anything. If you want to learn a new language because you want to be a language translator, go do that. Yeah. If you want to, start an online shop, there is unlimited amount of resources on the internet, on YouTube, even on podcasts. There's so much information out there for you to want to do something. But, what I hate the most is I hate when watch this video by the time you're 30, or I wish I knew this when I was 30. You see all those captions and shit on YouTube. There should be no age bracket for you to start something. You know what I mean? The best thing are for people who don't have a mortgage. They don't have anything to pay. There's no, Jackson, for you live at home. Yeah, mum and dad pay for food. Do you have any bills or anything?
Not particularly.
Yeah, so you got nothing to lose. So anything that you try, you've got something to fall back on. It's harder for the people who have something to lose. It's harder for someone to become an entrepreneur when they have a house to pay for and they can't really dedicate all their time to it. You're at the best stage of your life right now. And you too, Sam. Yeah. Because you guys live at home. There's no responsibilities. You're not paying for bills and stuff like that. You have the opportunity right now to do something that you've always wanted to do. But the only thing that hinders people the most is the fear of rejection, or the fear of the person they could be. But there is no fear that you were born with. There's only one fear that you're born with, and that's the fear of falling backwards. Every other fear you have instigated into your entire life. So work with a coach, read some books. There's a lot of great books, a lot of great resources. Work out where you are, work out where you want to be, work out what that gap is, and run towards it. And the biggest thing that I can leave you with is everything is based on imperfect action. Imperfect action.
I love that. Yeah. Very well said. And that's the thing about when Andy speaks. He's always he's got everyone in the palm of the hand. That's when he talks. Very articulate.
I love that quote as well. You got 2 lives, and the second one begins when you realize you only had one.
I love that one. I think that's a good quote to finish up this podcast with part 2 of episode number 11. What do you reckon, Jackson? Anything else you want to touch on?
No, I'm loving it.
All right, let's do the social media plugs, eh? Yeah. So thanks everyone for watching, of course. Like, comment, subscribe to us on YouTube. That's at The Sunday Smoke. You can catch us at The Sunday Smoke also on Instagram, or you can send us DMs, voice messages, audio messages, whatever you prefer. And you can follow us on TikTok, The Sunday Smoke Clips, where we put up the highlight reel package. And then also catch me on Shishagram Australia, where I want to start implementing a bit more Shisha-related content on the Reels page.
And be sure to check out the Hookah Haus here at Wetherill Park. Was 77 Newton Road. 77
Newton Road. Yeah, you can find us on Instagram and TikTok. It's just the Hookah Haus. And yeah.
And that's house spelled H-A-U-S.
H-A-U-S. It's German for luxury. But yeah.
All your premium shisha needs.
I actually didn't know that till now. Yeah. I didn't know that's what it was. Yeah.
Mad. 100%. But yeah. Thanks for joining us today, guys.
But also, of course, thank you for jumping on this episode.
That's all right, man. My pleasure.
We've been very excited to bring you on the podcast, and obviously we went a bit of a different direction with this episode, not being maybe as funny, because you can just add so much value with business and motivation and everything. So I'm glad that this was just sort of breaks away from the norm that we've been doing up until this point.
Yeah, awesome. Even if you look at when you were here last week having a session with me. You're like, do you want to be on the episode? And I'm like, yeah, let's do this Sunday. That was just imperfect action.
Done.
Yeah, let's do it.
Now
let's do it. We're here and it's done.
Beautiful. But honestly, Andy, thank you for joining us today. And we're going to definitely have you on in the future.
100%. Sounds good.
So, Andy, I think it's time to wrap this one up. What time is it?
It's time to take the coals off.
I love it. Thanks for listening, guys.